I give this in 3 different ways, just because I know that people's brains work differently. The first 2 are pretty short, and then the third one is long and pretty. I worked hard on it. So let me go ahead and share this. Great. Okay, so we're gonna just start with a spreadsheet because that's how everything starts with Sasha, is a spreadsheet. We won't arrive until the 14th, but you will need to fly from where you are likely on the 13th. Maybe Delphine, you could sneak a late night flight from New York, but we would like you to arrive on the 14th, which usually means leaving a day before. Then the green is the time that we'll be on the mainland. So we'll start in Athens. We'll have 3 days there. I mean, you can't go to Greece and not go to Athens and the Acropolis and all that. And then we'll spend some really special time around the Corinthian Gulf, which was between Athens and the Corinthian Gulf. They called it the Sacred Way. So we won't take the highway. We will take the old road and do the pilgrimage along the way. So then we'll go up into Arachava, which is under Mount Parnassus, the biggest, tallest mountain in Greece. And it's right, Delphi is built on that mountain, and Arachava is like 10 minutes down the road, and it's just nicer than staying in the modern town of Delphi. It's a bit touristy there, and my family is there. So then we'll come back down from the mountains. We will come down the coast around the southern tip of the mainland of Greece, and then we'll end up in Piraeus. So the gray is these 2 days, the 9th and 10th days, are options to leave early if you need to. Like if you're like, I just can't get away from work for 17 days, then that's an option to do the first half of the trip with us and then not attend the island part. So we have got, and then we're going to be going to Paros, Antiparos, and another island that's near there, and potentially day trips more if that's, if we get adventurous. But on the islands, we often want to just chill and slow down and be peaceful. And then we'll come back to the mainland for 2 days at the end of the trip, not into Athens, but just east of the airport. It's very close by, but it's a very special, sweet little suburb. And there's a great hotel and a temple of Artemis there. So that's the overview. And then you would depart on Tuesday, the 30th. So, in total, we'll be playing together like 16 days. Now I'm going to shift to the second part of the way I'm going to show you this trip. So this is Google Earth. I love Google Earth. And this is just going to give you a little bit of overview. So we'll definitely be messing around a lot in Athens. This is Syntagma Square, which this building here is the Parliament building. And they do a changing of the guard there. So it's more recent history, but it's still a really cool thing to witness and watch, and free and fun. So we'll do that one evening. We, of course, will go to Plaka, which is the oldest neighborhood in Athens, built, just at the foot of the Acropolis as it was all forming. We'll go to the Acropolis. We'll see the Arch of Hadrian. We'll see climb the Acropolis. That will definitely happen, and we'll tour about there. We will go to the Acropolis Museum, which is cool. On the outside of the Parthenon, there would have been all of these amazing like stuccos or frescoes. And the British took them back to the British Museum long ago. And the Greeks said, we want our stuff back. This is our history, give it back. And the British said to them, well, when you build a beautiful museum to house it, somewhere to keep it safe, then we'll give it back. So they did. Now it's been like 10 years since that has been built, and they have not given them back, but they have all the replicas, which are perfectly wonderful to view. It's just not the OG, and you can be mad on the behalf of the Greeks. But it's a nice museum, and there's a great little coffee shop there. If we want to take a hike up a little hill nearby, we can visit the prison of Socrates, which I find both interesting because of Socrates and also because of the ancient rock that it is carved into. I'm pretty sure that rock was there before, and the carving was before Socrates' time. And that's some of the what you'll learn on the trip, and what I'm obsessed about is like the size of the rock. The older it is, the bigger it is, the older it is, the smaller it is, the newer it is. um, there's an ancient agora that is Greek, and there's a Roman agora as well, but there are basically forums. Agora means shopping. It's like a, it was like a marketplace, but it was a place where they could exchange goods as well as ideas. And then Hadrian's library in the Roman Forum is also very cool to see. We'll go to Monstriaki, which is a district as well as a square. There's an amazing shoe creator, sandal, leathersmith, if you will, who's there, who I know, and he has a shop there and on the island that we will go to. So you'll have two options to buy sandals from him if you want like handmade Greek sandals that are amazing. But Monstriaki is where the Greeks go to hang out. And I have some friends that own a restaurant there. You'll see in the next presentation about that. Okay, then after those 3 days, we'll swing over to the Corinthian Gulf. Now, this is a bit of a Panama Canal situation, except for it happened in ancient Greek times, and they carved that strip that you can see on the map by hand, and they would dredge the boats across the canal so that you could get from the Ionian Sea um, to the Aegean Sea or vice versa without having to go all the way around and down around the bottom of the Peloponnesus. The Peloponnese is a bit of those fingers at the bottom. You'll have another chance to see it. And this is where the sacred road leads, the sacred way. And it's not far from Nafplion, which was the ancient capital or the old capital, whereas now Athens is the current capital. We'll get more into this area in the presentation. Then we'll head up to the mountains. This is the village of Arachova, and it means in the rocks. It's built up into the rocks. And they found it was people fleeing for their lives and for their safety that first settled the town. But they found this sort of pocket of wonderful in the weather. What are those? There's like this climate, that sort of like bubble in of a climate there. So it's always lovely and beautiful. And my yaya was a weaver, and she would hike up Mount Parnassus to get to all of the flowers to take for dyeing her wool. And they were sheep farmers as well, so that they could take the wool, and she would weave these amazing rugs. She doesn't anymore, but we own some, and she has one for sale at least. But she's amazing, and that whole area they have a tradition there. It's a traditional village, and she's like the godmother of Arachova. Then we'll go, of course, to Delphi. You cannot go to Greece without going to Delphi. It's very important. And it's the belly button of the world, as they say. We'll talk a bit more about that as well. And there's another area that no one goes to, this place called Levadia. It's like a working class town. And because my family lived there, I was there last May, and it was Greek Orthodox Easter. So they were busy and everything was closed. And I went exploring, and I have found some amazing secret sites all in this area that I will show you that like nobody knows about. Okay. And then that was a bit hard to see with Google, but this is now down at the bottom, the southern tip of the mainland. And this is Cape Sunion, it's called, but this is the Temple of Poseidon. So we'll offer to Poseidon before we get on a ferry and go to the islands. We'll also, if we have time that day, fingers crossed, we'll go to Lake Buglameni. It's fresh water next to the coast in this bizarre little outcropping. And it's like this little afternoon delight of swimming. So that's a fun pastime that we can do. Piraeus is the big port. It's where most of the boats leave to the city. So we'll stay down there just to make our commute easy on it for an early morning ferry the next day. And this is a good time. This is actually day 10 I'm already at, but it's easy to take the ferry directly or the subway, the metro directly to the airport. So if you needed to leave that day, that's like a good day to go. Then we'll travel to my favorite areas of the islands. this actually might be in the wrong order, forgive me. But oh no, it is. I must have fixed it. So Nausa is one of the oldest fishing villages. It looks the most Santorini-esque, the most like Cycladic white and blue kind of area. And it's a lovely place to visit, shop, lunch, check out. They actually just had a pretty big flood over the winter, but they've cleaned it all up and it's beautiful again. We will stay on Antiparos. So it means a big ferry and then a little ferry. But the reason for me to stay on Antiparos is it's like home, like that. My friend introduced me to the hotel where we will stay at, and he was best friends with Dimitri. So Dimitri and Dimitri were best friends. They're in their 60s or 70s. But the father died, and then the son Dimitri inherited that hotel. They're all called Dimitri, I swear. And so now we always stay there, and it's just like going home to family. And the village is super walkable, and the island has the most beautiful, pristine, secret beaches that what we do here is like avoid all of the other tourists and have perfect beaches to ourselves. Which honestly, I'll just say that as a preview, this trip will change your life. It won't even happen on purpose. It just will. Kimberly has since then opened a bar and has like really taken her finances, her well-being. She has an Airbnb now, like into herself. Her father passed away. And on that trip, I thought I was super in love with my husband. We're now getting divorced that 2 years later. And it was actually the catalyst to show me that we had very different values, that I want to spend my life traveling the world and my money, and he doesn't. And it wasn't going to work. So another woman that came with us decided to quit drinking on the day that she was like definitely an alcoholic, decided to quit drinking on the day that she registered for the trip. She did the whole trip sober. When she came back, she ended up getting a promotion at work, buying a house, and falling in love. And she's got like, the happily ever after life with this guy and 2 dogs now. It's so cute. Okay, this is Despotico Island. It is uninhabited. It's an ancient Phoenician island. And I won't give away its secrets, but I'll give away one. There's a temple of Apollo that's being uncovered, unearthed by anthropologists and studied. But there's a private beach that we'll take a private boat to that was the most spectacular thing I've ever done. I waited like years and years. It was like the weather wasn't good, or he wasn't running that boat that day, and so many trips I just couldn't go. And then 2 years ago, we all finally got to go, and it was immense. And now I have him on WhatsApp, the boatman, Captain Sarvo. So we're good. Okay, then we'll have to head back to the mainland, which is always hard, but to reward us for our deep work on the islands and the slow pace, we'll come and stay at the Dolce by Wyndham, darling, which is so relaxing and sweet. It's a lovely little resort and on the coast as well, so we don't have to give up the ocean. And then the next day, we'll visit the beautiful Temple of Artemis at Buron. And then you'll have to fly out, but you see the airport is like immediately close, so it's very easy from there. Okay, I'm gonna go on, I think, to the pretty part of the presentation. If you guys are okay with that, stop me if you just come off mute for a second or chat me if you have any questions. I'll make this big. Okay, so again, we're going to go through the itinerary, but you'll get a little bit more detail and visual this way. So here's one version of Aphrodite, just to begin with. For context, I thought this was cool. So that little hand part at the bottom, let me show you here, that's called the Peloponnesus, and that canal goes right through there. So that saves them going around it. But what amazes me is that I'm living in Colorado and Greece is about half the size. And it is so chock-a-block. You drive 2 hours and you're like in another world. Or even half an hour sometimes. So I can't wait to just show you all of these little pieces that are housed in the magnificent country of Greece. This is just a sort of overview of our map. It doesn't even include the sort of northern part of Greece and Thessaloniki, but this is where we'll be touring about. And again, we'll start in Athens with the Acropolis Museum. We'll visit the ancient Agora and the Roman Agora, Plaka. And in fact, I'm going to take you to a little less well-known part of Plaka that was founded by some islanders. And there's like a little island village in the middle of the city. Syntagma Square, like I said, is the changing of the guard, and it's also a super makeout spot for the Greeks. So you never know what's going to happen in Syntagma Square, and it's a subway stop as well. So that likely will be our subway stop for our hotel. Hadrian was a big Roman dude. He built a lot of stuff. We'll visit his stuff too. But our first stop, of course, will be to honor the goddess Athena, who is the patron and protectress of Athens. She was a virgin. She never married. They call her a warrior goddess. They call her the goddess of war. And in fact, it's the masculine lens, maybe, or the patriarchal lens that gives us that view, when in fact she is the protectress of peace. You know, war sometimes is necessary for peace, but it's not that she's like, let's go to war. She's like, no, let me protect my people. Some symbols of her are the snake and the owl, which is why I added them. She's also it's intelligence, but it's the arts, but it's also crafts and trades. It's like the skills that we have. All right. Then at the ancient Agora, there's a beautiful temple to Hephaestus. And again, I feel like they misunderstand Hephaestus and Aphrodite's relationship a lot. Hera said to Zeus, Hera was a very jealous goddess, and she said to Zeus, like, we have to marry that gorgeous girl off right away. And so Zeus decided to give her a choice, and she had many, many suitors. And in fact, she chose the lame god Hephaestus. He had a bad foot. He lives in the volcano. He's the blacksmith, and he's constantly creating amazing inventions. So in some ways, I feel like he was her rock, and Ares was her fire. That was her lover. But I don't really buy into the fact that they had this like horrible, tumultuous relationship. I'm like more of a fan of being like, maybe they were in an open relationship. Like, you know, maybe he understood that he worked a lot and she needed love, and that there is the golden net story as well. But he wanted, you'd want to know what your little wife is up to. We'll get more into that, but we'll honor Hephaestus, as well as there's a small, if we can find it, sometimes it's hard to find, and it's like across a track. It's not actually in the Agora, but she has a little, Aphrodite Urania has a small altar there as well. But either way, we'll be honoring them and their love and the stability that relationships can bring. These will be optional hikes. Lycabettus Hill gives you a 360 view of the entire city. It's gorgeous. You can see all the way to the sea. And there's a really cool funicular that'll take you up to the top. But getting to that grassy green area is still a hike. It's up, staircases or hills toward the hill of Lycabettus Hill, but super worth it. And then Socrates Prison, it's much more of a hill than like a mountain, but very, very worth it. Very beautiful gardens, and a really cool old Byzantine church as well up there. And just FYI, whenever you see a Byzantine church, you know it was built on an ancient sacred goddess site. There are so many, including this one here in the middle of Monstriapi Square. So that kind of rounded dome, actually, I think that one was a mosque, and it might still be a mosque. But those rounded domes, the tiles, the smaller bricks, those are all Byzantine. You'll learn more. But Monastiraki has a great flea market. It has just a vibe, I swear. So we'll hang out some there. And then one evening, this is a warning because I kept forgetting to warn myself and you, but if there's a warning, on the next screen, you're going to see a video of us dancing and playing at my friend's restaurant. They play traditional Greek music. So I just want to prepare you that when I click to the next screen, you will hear a loud noise. Ready? Okay. some great clubs out there, and some weird, wonderful, windy streets. You'll be like, "Where are we going, Sasha?" And then poof, you'll be in like just the most fun area. Um, so this is a bit of a slide to transition into. We're going to leave Athens after this, and we'll go into the Corinthian Gulf. So Corinth really is where democracy was founded. It was happening, like the conversations were happening in Athens, but this was home too. And I think that, as Americans, we think we're the melting pot. We have so many disparate different cultures, and we're all so kind of different. But honestly, the thing that creates American culture is Greek. It's our democracy that weaves us together, and it's where we came from. So I believe that if we want to alter the course of where we're going as a country, that we want to know where we came from. So we'll speak a little bit about this, but this, for example, this little owl coin would be an ancient Athenian coin with Athena's owl symbol. And now we have money, right? Nike. This is the goddess Nike. It's a statue of her, unfortunately, in the Louvre in France. But same with the Venus de Milo, who is from Milos Island. But the Nike swoosh came from the Nike wings. So there's more weaving together than we actually know. All of our gatherings and our theaters and our movies and our entertainment came from ancient Greek theater. Okay, enough about my soapbox. So in Corinth, it's almost, I was like, this slide just doesn't do these goddesses justice, but to let you know, we are going to visit multiple sites. So this top hexagon is the Corinthian Canal. At one end, it's quite high, large, tall rocks. And at the other end, it's, you could wade across the water on one side, but you can see this ancient marble dock where they would put the boats in or pull them out. This picture here in the middle is ancient Corinth, and it's in the lowlands, it's in the flatlands. But this Acrocorinth, acro means like up, that was Aphrodite's most sacred temple in Greece. And this is us doing a ritual at it with, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a sexy tomato there. Look closely. And from the top of that hill, you could see both the Ionian Sea and the Aegean Sea. And this is a very interesting, magical, historical filled place where at once upon a time, it was a hill of love. It was the hill of love. And then the Ottomans came and built a fort around it and built walls around love and made it into a fortress. And then the Byzantines came and put all their religious sites on top of it. So her temple is in ruins there, but you can feel her presence without question. And it is one of the most magical sites. It's a bit of a hike, I will say. You can see from the middle picture that it's a big hike, but it's very worth it. We'll take our time. Now, around the bay is Hera's secret site and sacred site. It was her temple, her even home potentially. I mean, not exactly home, but a home to Hera worshiping goddesses. Hera being the wife of Zeus and queen of the Olympians. It's right on the beach. We can go in the water. It's so lush, and it's an easy hike up and down a paved road. But it's opposite of Acrocorinth because Hera wanted to keep an eye on Aphrodite and all that she was up to. It's very fun. On the way, we will also dip into the Eleusinian mysteries. This picture is of where they say that Persephone enters the underworld every year. And where she originally did it with Demeter bawling her eyes out and begging her not to. So we will also visit that sacred site. And then this little sweetie was a picture I took of the little resort in Loutraki that we'll stay at. It's it's just not far out of the city at all. So mostly Greeks just go there. No main tourists really go there, but it's like the little getaway outside of town. And it's right on the Gulf as well, and very beautiful views. I've included the bee, the honey, the pomegranate, the rose, and the frame drum on the slide because they are all symbols of the goddess. And in fact, the name Melissa that we all use here now means bee in Greek. And the priestesses of Aphrodite kept bees, also of Artemis, and probably others, but those are the two for sure I know about. They kept bees. They played the frame drum because it sounded like the vibration of the bees, and they were very, very, very much in tune with nature and the cycles of nature. So that'll be a really lush couple of days. And I wanted to speak a little more now into how this love goddess travels through time and space. I actually have an entire presentation on like the globe, but keeping it simple for this, uh, you know, this symbol in the center is Venus, the planet Venus, traveling over time, and in its cycle, it creates a five-pointed star. Five is the symbol of, well, the fifth element, if you know, are familiar with that movie, right? But we got the four elements plus the fifth, which is that ethereal spirit energy. So five is a huge symbol of the love goddess, the pentagram as well. And it, I mean, literally, she's making that course in the sky, and the ancient Greeks knew it over like I think it's a course of 7 years or something like that. It's not a short time. Um, but you can see that, so the mythology says Persephone had to go and save her man, or go through the take off of her seven veils and go through these levels to get down into the underworld, and then she spends half the year there and half the world back, and it's why we call Venus the morning star when she comes back, or the evening star. But that same mythology exists before Persephone in Inanna, and with Aphrodite as well, becoming the Roman goddess Venus and collapsing that kind of love goddess energy into what we call our current planet. Isis also had that experience. She had to go into the underworld to save Osiris, and this Celtic goddess Caradwen, same mythology. So it does show that particular story shows up. But there I have a list of hundreds of religions, maybe not hundreds, but a lot of all of the ancient religions with all of their different love goddesses who all worshipped bees, who all carry this what we call now rose lineage. And in fact, a lot of people refer to Mary Magdalene as the rose lineage carrier currently, but I believe that monotheism split that goddess in two, and we have this virginal mother, pure and ever giving and unconditionally loving, as Mother Mary. And then we have, the most negative connotation of Mary Magdalene, which is this whore that needs saving, right? But what they did in those extremes is cut out all the middle. And in fact, we can be an angry warrior goddess. Like Aphrodite will definitely, even though she's not a warrior goddess or a war goddess, she will get into a fight because she believes in justice. She will step in, right? So this lineage is carried throughout any polytheistic pantheon. And she has literally traveled through time and space. Like she came from Africa in the Ife and Yoruba tradition, all the way through to like Creole, like voodoo Creole, and up the coast into to Santeria, what we now know as Santorina. So there's like goddesses hidden under Catholicism. There's a wonderful goddess called Sarah Kali, who the Romani created. So they were traveling between Eastern Europe and India. So India had Kali, and we had like these Sarah Bible-ish figures. So they created literally the first Black Madonna called Sarah Kali. So she has moved and morphed with us this whole time, and we just forget that she's there, but she's so ever present, and we can tap into her anytime. So it's why we both call her, the love goddess and goddess of 10,000 names. Again, my loving soapbox. Okay, now we're going to go up into the mountains, and these are my loving sweet family. So this was Froso, that's my Yaya, my mama, Yaya, whatever, Yaya's grandmother. And she was like my grandmother until my mother died, and we kind of realized, oh, my mother and her were the same age, and I'm like mostly the same age as her daughter Yoria, and so now she's mama. But that's beside the point. So she'll just adopt you. Watch out. That's her like cuddling Devery at dinner one night. This is Yoria's shop, which started long ago with Froso's husband Dimitri, again, who was a carpenter and worked like brick mason. And so that was his like shop a long time ago. Then it became one of Frosso's weaving stores, and now this iteration of it is Georgia has the most impeccable taste in clothes, so we can visit her and her shop there, and it's right on the main street of Arachova. There's a fun hashtag outside to take a photo at. And this is the family. So that's her daughter. That's her granddaughter, Ephrosyne, named after her. And oh, guess what? Her grandson, Dimitri. So I don't know why they all are Dimitri. And this for me, this I included this photo of this piece of hot chocolate. It's just a hot chocolate that I got one night at a tea shop in town. And I want you to know there is so much love. They put so much love into everything that they do. They do it well. So the food is impeccable. And we'll eat at Frosso's friend's family restaurant, Maria's restaurant, while we're there, at least one of the nights. Um, and we're arguing about what hotel we stay in because we stayed at somebody's hotel that she was like, oh, he talks all the time. Don't stay there. Stay with my friends. So we're in communication about that right now. But this is the view from the village. This was, I think, either one evening or one morning as the clouds kind of came in and held it. But you can see we're like above the clouds there in that pocket down here at the bottom. But it feels like home, and I want you to have that experience. So my mother, long ago, 95, she went to find this town and this weaver that she'd heard about, Froso Haritu. And so she's walking down the street and, kind of just like peeking around stores. And then she comes to this store and it's amazing weaving. She goes in and she's like, wow, have you ever heard of Froso Haritu? And Froso doesn't speak much English. So she's like, Froso Haritu? Points at herself. And then, of course, she's like, well, come stay at my house. You have to stay over and have dinner with us. So they did. And my mom was an excellent pen pal. So they stayed in contact. So 7 years later, in 2002, when I first went, I'm 22, backpacking with this like lanky dude. And we're walking down the main street of Arachova because my mom's like, you have to go find Froso. So I go and I'm asking storekeepers. They're very nosy in that town. So they're like outside their storefront, like, who are these crazy Americans walking with their backpacks in our town? And I'm like, Froso Haritu? And they just keep pointing me down the road, down the road, down the road. And then finally I come to a bakery and there's two women standing out front and I say, Froso Haritu? And she points to herself. And she brings a 6-year-old down, and the 6-year-old translates that I'm Nancy's daughter. And she's like, what? You're Nancy's daughter? Come stay at my house. You have to stay with us. I'm feeding you dinner. So I did. And then, years and years passed, and they stayed in communication with like Christmas cards and birthday cards. And we finally got to go back in, I think it was 2017 or 18. Oh, no, it was 2015. Sorry. And we went back. And by that point, I had lived in France for 3 years, and she had been part of a group of weavers in France. So now we had French to communicate in together. Yeah. And now I'm taking Greek, and I can't wait to go back and try to speak Greek with her. Especially as she forgets her French. But, and so do I, honestly. Anyway, so I can't wait to share those sweeties with you and this funny little town that is amazing outside of Delphi. Then we will take our day trip to Delphi. There's a wonderful museum that houses so many amazing artifacts from the site. But for me, the coolest thing about Delphi is that as I said, okay, this picture on the right it's a replica of the original rock. But what happened was Zeus sent 2 eagles flying out. And he said to them, show me the center of the world. And they landed here in Delphi. So he dropped this belly button rock. And now we call it the belly button of the world. So you'll see that. But that's the base level. And then as you climb up the mountain and the hill, it actually goes up 7 levels and you can feel it in your chakra system hitting the energy. It is so exciting. So we'll pay attention to that as we go, and we'll commune with the Oracle of Delphi, especially Delphine. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to take you to some of my secret sites in undisclosed locations. But this temple of Zeus that I found is like, Delphi is very protective. There are guards. There are like, you can't touch that. They're like, put your camera away. Like, do you have a permit for that? Like, it's precise there. They want to preserve it, which makes perfect sense. But this particular site, nobody knows about yet. So there's nothing stopping us from touching and walking and lying all over those rocks. It's very special. So I can't wait to take you there. And Zeus was the husband of Hera, if I haven't mentioned that enough. And we, in each site, I kind of invite you to call on them and to call in what they have to offer. If there's some situation in your life you need justice for, like bring that. If you're like, I want the power of heaven at my fingertips, make that prayer. Okay. Now, these are also very secret, sacred sites. This is another oracle, this water place on the left, and another passage into the underworld. This is an old megalithic rock wall. It's not as big as I've seen them, but it's one of the coolest things to see that kind of architecture all over the world. The Egyptologists want to say like, oh no, Egypt made all these stones ourselves, and then we don't know how we did it, but we did that all our own community, right? But actually, Machu Picchu, Delphi, you'll see them at Delphi as well, Angkor Wat, but these societies have these same architectures, and Göbekli Tepe is another place in Turkey. They have the same architecture, and even this cairn that I found also in the middle of an olive grove that I walked right up to, and it was snake season. I almost got bit. I almost stepped on a snake that day because there was nobody there. It was nothing, just a middle of me on a dirt road in the middle of an olive field, and finding this ancient cairn. But I also went to Scotland on that trip and went to an ancient Scottish cairn, and I'm like, this is the same architecture. And so to get to see these things with your own eyes and start putting your own pieces of history together, I think it's the proof. It's the proof in the pudding when you see it for yourself. So excited to show you those. Okay, then we'll come down. This is an optional day to leave. It won't be perfect. You'd need an evening flight. Like, we got to talk about it. But we could probably drop you at the airport or get you there. Don't leave in the morning. It's a bit of a drive down from the mountains back to this area, but we'll come around, and here's Kimberly and me at Cape Sunion at the site of Poseidon, and it overlooks this cliff. And in fact, we offered into the ocean from there and said a prayer. And then we can go to this lake Wulgameni, which is also just really, really cool. Okay. Now, we'll go to Piraeus for a night, which is the port town. It's one of the older, more modern parts of the city, I would say. And it's busy and bustling and funky. But it'll be fun for like a night and for dinner. And then in the morning, we'll catch an early ferry. I'm going to choose the slow boat on our behalf. I want you to know that. The speedboat, it's too fast and you can't go outside enough. On the slow boat, you begin to slow down and get more on island time. You have the experience of what it might have been like sailing through the Aegean. So I love the slow boat. There's food, there's relaxing. We play cards. You could read your book. Like, we just have a wander, different decks, but people watch for sure. But I think it's part of the process to take the slow boat, and I've done both, and I don't prefer the fast boat. We can take the fast boat back. Now we'll arrive on Paros, and we'll rent some cars there. So that way we're really flexible on the islands actually, and you can do what you want. But we'll take a little tour of there's a number of different little towns on Paros. It's the bigger island, including Parikia, which is the port town and the sort of capital of it. And then when we're ready, we'll transport ourselves by ferry over to Antiparos, the other little island. And that's where we'll stay at the Hotel Antiparos. And on Antiparos, there are beautiful beaches. There's one specifically designed for nudity. It's called Camping Beach. And then there are others that are just so secret that there's like an unspoken rule in Greece. Like, if you get there first and you're naked, that's fine. Now it's a nude beach. If you get there second and someone's not nude, today it's not a nude beach. So there's just this sort of fun unwritten law. One day I saw a great photo shoot at one of the secret beaches. They were a bunch of Greeks having made beautiful Greek textiles, and these little models like modeling it. That was like a fun experience. But I don't know if you can get the water. It's just so clear and pristine. And on my favorite beach, the nude beach, you can actually it's a bay where you can walk across. The deepest part is about up to here. I'm only 5'4", and you can walk all the way across to another island and go exploring over there as well. Okay. Uh, then we will get to take Captain Sargos's super special boat over to the super secret island and go to our super private beach, which is ancient. Like, and the coolest thing I've ever seen, you will see. I'm going to save it for a surprise, but I was like on the boat, falling over and crying, like with the amount of amazingness. It's this. He says, Captain Sargo says it's a natural, oh natural, and I'm like, there's no way that whole thing is natural, but it's a natural structure. I think that's been enhanced to represent a goddess, and it is stunning. Um, that is a sun worshiping day. Of course, our Apollo is all about the sun, and we will honor him in our skin. Um, Captain Pepinos is pretty famous on Nantiparos. It's around the other side of the island, but it's just the most Greek experience for eating, I think, especially seafood. So this is a sunset from there. It was spectacular. It's always spectacular. Okay, and then we will have to return from the islands. Oh, did I tell you that it was this slide I'm supposed to mention, but there's also a cave on Antiparos, like quite a deep, deep cave that you can go down into if that's of interest to you. Many beautiful stalactites, stalagmites. And in fact, a lot of history, like James Joyce and other British explorers came and like tagged, basically, they graffitied their names onto these beautiful rock faces, but it's interesting to have that history as well. Okay, so then we'll return, as I mentioned before, to the Artemida coast, named after the goddess Artemis, another virgin huntress. And to clarify, virgin, that is another little funny thing we've done, is to make that mean they never had sex, or that we're pure in some particular way if we are a virgin. But it was actually a proper word for empowerment. That was like, I don't need anyone else. I have complete choice and freedom over my body, and I will remain independent, versus giving something up or connecting in all the way with the man. And now who knows if these goddesses actually had sex? I don't need to get into that, but there's something about the empowerment piece of virgin that makes a lot of sense. So funnily enough, she is the huntress, but one of her main duties is to help children, protect children, and also help women with difficult births. So it was also, this site is very, very cool. I wanted to include a picture of myself with this chalice that is like as half as tall as I am. It must be 3 feet around, but carved out of one rock. That is also there. And you can see, if you look closely, this is Greek, a r e mi e d e. So Artemidi is what that says on top. I can only read the first line because ancient Greek is different than modern Greek. Okay. So I think that I want to give you a little bit of a warning. I mean, I sort of said it before, that this will be a transformational trip. It will shift things in your life. And it's partly because of my intention. So I created what was called the Southern Sierra Goddess Gathering. I did that gathering for 6 years in Southern California. The first 4, we only had women. And then the last 2, we let everyone in and participate. And now I'm really very open to having everybody participate in goddess work. Everyone deserves that opportunity. So I want you to know that it's not just like a trip. It's not even just an adventure. It will be adventurous. And you literally, if something can go wrong in Greece, it will. You don't know. There's a lot of unknowns that happen. I will request that you're flexible and let that universal magic occur. But there is an intention of togetherness, of transformation, of healing. And I really am at your service to be your coach, your guide, your support system as things come up along the trip, as you prepare for the trip, and even post the trip. So you're not alone in it. We will all be in it. And even I mean, Devery was the one that gave me my goddess gathering 2 years ago. She is just such a person of integrity. And I could see, I thought I had a friend, but he kept pushing my boundaries. And she never said a word about it, but I could see the look on her face. And it made me set a boundary with him and walk away from, she and I were at the beach with him, and we walked away. And literally, she never said a dang thing to me, but it transformed me in that moment. So we will transform one another, as well as these sites and the pilgrimage that we are going on, and the goddesses and gods that come to us for that. So I that is part of this, that I doing this call, for example, I want to know that we are aligned, that we want to travel together, that we want this particular adventure and transformation together. Okay. So now it's logistics and stuff. Are you ready for that? Yeah. Okay. So these are the things that are not included in the price that I'll tell you in a minute. Um, Tips for drivers and servers, like, just tips at restaurants. Europeans don't tip very often, but Americans have a reputation of tipping, and the Greeks fully appreciate it. They also appreciate cash. During the crisis, they called it, when Germany called their debt back in, every citizen, especially if they had their own business, got taxed at 30 to 40%. So anything that we can do in cash is sometimes helpful for them. We will have some drivers when we're out and about in Corinth and in Delphi. And so there's sort of like an expected tip of $10 per day from each person or something like that. And we want to do that. They are lovely and they have so much information, and the drivers that we had 2 years ago were just adorable. Dinners are not included because I don't want to pre-plan them or have you pre-plan your meals. I want to just go in. Some nights you'll want to go off on your own or with half the group, or whatever. Maybe it's just you and your partner that night, or we can all eat together. But it'll be that kind of like, okay, I owe this much, you owe this much, or we just split it evenly, whatever. But it gives us a lot more freedom, and it gives you the opportunity to choose what you want. Same with beverages, adult beverages, or like an extra coffee in the day. That's on you. Lunches, if you're hungry, I'm certain there will be days where we try to eat 3 meals, but most often that breakfast that they'll provide in the morning at most of our hotels is lush. It's not like Best Western or Holiday Inn here. It's like full feast in the morning. So eat well in the morning, and then we'll sort of do like lunches in the evenings, or we'll have a snack, and then we can have like our bigger proper meal together. And then any shopping that you might want to do, I do recommend spending money for, you can find a trinket for €2 for sure. And you can also find $1,000 gold necklaces. So it depends on what your budget is and what you want to get from there. But Greeks are gold makers. So that's sort of the budget I recommend for you to just kind of think about on top of things. Okay, what is included? So our 16 nights of hotels, all included. There's a mandatory tax from the government, $5 per night per room. I've included that so that we don't have to worry about it. Entry fees to 16 sites, ferry rides, rental cars that we'll need. Breakfast is included for 10 days on Antiparos. We'll go to breakfast in the restaurants, or we'll get a snack from the local grocery store and go to the beach. But that'll just be a little more freeform. There'll be 8 days of private coaches, and the driver and his hotel expenses that are all included in that, because he has to stay somewhere too if he's away from home. And then I'm going to give you an all-encompassing packing list just to make your lives easier. All the booking and service fees that I will do on your behalf to book all these hotels and things as included, and then you get me. Okay, so I'm going to go over the total 17-day trip, and then I'll tell you what the first 9 or 10 days is going to be as well. But we should talk about the shared single situation. I want you to know what you're getting into. So if you're a couple, it's great. Have your room, your big bed. Woohoo. If you're a single and you prefer to stay alone, I totally get that. I'm in. Like, I like my own space. But if you're wanting to do more of a budget situation, you can share with another person. But what they mean by shared rooms, like on Antiparos Hotel, there's spacious enough rooms that these 2 twin beds have 2 feet between them, 3 feet between them. But some of the hotels have two twin beds that would normally be pushed together like a king bed. They don't really do king beds in Greece, often in Europe as well. So they're usually pushed together as the king bed. So when you say I'm going to share with another single, they might move them about. I mean, I could have held my friend's hand that I stayed with like, from the bed. It was like inches apart in some of the hotels. So I just need you to know that you might feel a little bit on top of one another. It will be tighter if you decide to do a shared single, but that is definitely an option. So that's the total price on the top line for each of those shared single, single, or couple, if you can get in my spreadsheet brain. If you want to pay me by midnight tomorrow, I'm going to knock your last three digits off. It's just about 10%. And it's a flat fee. If you're like, I'm in, I'm going, give it and I have it, give it to me. Great. Then it's done. And all you'll have to worry about is your flights. The if you don't want to do that, if you just don't like not completely that flush in this moment, you can do the non-refundable deposit, which is $14.44 by Monday. I'm giving you 5 days, ideally, because the sooner that we know for sure that a few people are going, the sooner we know that it's all happening. And then the second payment would be due about 4 weeks later at the end of June. And then the third payment, last one, would be done by 5 weeks later after that by August 1st. I'm willing to work with you, but I'd rather not because that helps me make sure all your hotels are booked and all the things are ready for us. Now, if you feel that you can only do the mainland part, you really can't be away all 17 days, then unfortunately the islands are much less expensive than the mainland. So it's only really a third off. It's not half. I want you to know that. So it's roughly about a third less in each category to take those last few days off. So if you can manage those 17 days, it's so worth it. Same deal. I'll just knock your last three digits off if you want to pay me in full by tomorrow night. And then similar payment plan, same deposit. Because honestly, we have to book the hotels in Athens immediately. That's what we need to like for sure secure. Everywhere else, I know the people and I have the connections. So that gives us more leeway. Okay. I think that brings us to the closing and we can ask some questions in a minute. So I really truly hope that you will come play with me. And I want to thank you for listening and giving me this much time in your day. And my fingers are crossed. So is this the trip for you?